If you think the best clients to attract to your business are the ideal ones, think again. I'm here with Kailee Newman, and I want her to dive in because this is all about her. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you over to her, and she's going to tell you a little bit about herself and why this world and this conversation is important, not only to her but to you as well.
Hi, Shauna. Thank you for so much for having me. And if you are here listening, rather you're in the live or if you're listening later, my name is Kailee, as Shauna said, and I am your magical brand and website designer. And if you can't tell, I've gotten that name based off of just my entire aesthetic and brand as a whole. My hair is purple. I'm constantly wearing Galaxy. And if you head over to my page, my whole brand is built on purples and blues and the whole Galaxy theme. So it's very different. My business name is eclecticdesigns.co, and I have been within this industry for 7 years. And so I have had my fair share of trial and error, figuring out what works versus what doesn't, working with multiple clients, both in the corporate world as well as small business and independent business owners, and working with Shauna as well, which I've been so grateful for. So I'm excited to be here and to dive deeper into understanding just who to attract to your business and what separates from an ideal client to a dream client, because those are the people we want to work with.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that people forget. Like we hear this buzzword, ideal client all over the place. But before we dive into kind of that differentiation, I kind of wanted to talk to you about this really because we know each other. I want to dive in a little bit into this idea of you were talking about you've been in corporate. You're
Mhm.
also an entrepreneur. You've made that transition. You've worked with a variety of different types of clients. And we speak very frequently about the reasons for your transition
Yes.
and the buzzword that's all around, and it's a buzzword for a reason. I say this all the time, alignment, right?
Mhm.
And alignment is so multifaceted. So first, I wanted to ask you about like what that means to you and why it's important, and just kind of talk about that journey, that kind of switch that you made.
Right. So when I was in corporate, I graduated with my bachelor's degree in graphic and web design. So first and foremost, I have my bachelor's, which is super cool. And I went straight into the corporate world. I was working for a transportation company. And before that, I had an internship at a commercial real estate company. So I was like deep in corporate, right? And this is the corporate where everybody's wearing suit and tie. And I was on probably about a year and a half into the transportation company, and I was wearing, and it's funny, like I laugh at it now. I had to wear slacks to work, either a button-up shirt or a blouse, and like that works for some people, right? People can really like embrace that style, but for me it was very diluting to who I was as a person.
I
I felt
couldn't
like,
imagine.
yeah,
I,
no.
I couldn't imagine. I'm just sitting here trying to, and I'm like, who
Mhm. Yeah.
in who on this
I
earth is that?
I like, if I could go back in my archives on, like, my personal Instagram, I even have a picture, and looking at who that Kaylee was to who I am now, it's phenomenal to see, like, the transformation I have made into stepping into my wholehearted self and really embracing like who I am and knowing that I could be successful in that space. So I also didn't have purple hair, which is also crazy to think about. I had, the really beautiful, like honey brown hair. So a very typical what you would see in the office. And I ended up dyeing my hair purple while I was still in office and just
Ooh,
remembering
drama.
being like really scared about it. And I just started to realize that I was completely losing who I was, and I felt really uncomfortable. Like, I would get up and I'd be like, I felt like I couldn't have self expression in the office. I felt like my creativity was really diluted. And I was starting to kind of almost lose my passion for graphic design. And I asked myself on year two, like, is this my life?
Mm.
I dreamed of working in corporate. I was making really good money at the time too. I was only I think how old was I? I think I was 22, making really good money in the field. So I was kind of upset because you graduate, I got the ideal job, and yet I still didn't feel happy or fulfilled. So
Ooh.
at the time was still working with freelance clients. I've been doing and working with freelance clients graphic design wise for about 7 years now. And I was still working with them, and I would be at my corporate job, and then on my lunches I would work on my client stuff, and then I'd go home after work and work on my client stuff. And I
Busy.
kept having conversations with my boyfriend, and I was like, I just really enjoy working with my clients. And so I really started to try to develop my own brand. And while I was in corporate, I was still feeling really forced when building my brand. I still felt like I was trying to embrace that corporate feel, to approach everything very strategically and professionally, and everything had to be, zipped up to the T. And it's still, if you go back on my business Instagram, you can see what my brand looked like before, and it still wasn't quite me. So you can start to see the transition on my Instagram, which I really love, of where I felt like I had to be a certain way, and then when I started to actually step into who I was as a person.
And I'm hearing a lot about like this fear, truly. And
Mhm.
and I mean, it's sad, right? To,
Yeah.
to think that you have to be fearful to be yourself, or to be fearful to execute on a passion, right?
Hmm.
And we see that a lot in entrepreneurship. We see that a lot where people are saying, well, I really want to do it this way, but, or I really,
Right.
this is where my passion lies, but. And then you start to question, okay, but if that's where your heart is, if that's where your soul is, do the thing. But it all
Mhm.
comes down to that fear. And you
Yes.
mentioned too, and I love this. I love this. You mentioned the ideal job, which is
Mhm.
perfect feed
Yeah.
for this idea of an ideal client as well. So, I mean, that said, let's broach the topic. I was going to wait for a little bit, but let's broach the topic. So, this ideal job fit the bill, right?
Mhm.
We had this list of what it meant to be an the job suitable for you based on your credentials and society's expectations,
Right.
right? We transitioned away from that
Yeah.
to a different space that, I mean, based on even just your demeanor talking about it, we can imagine is the dream job. So
Mhm.
these are two distinct different things. And how does that reflect in clients, in your opinion?
Right. So when I did this huge transition and decided to go from ideal to pivoting to like actual dream, like my dream, this is where the idea of dream clients really became present within my life, but also within working in my space with my clients, and also working with and teaching my clients how to attract the right people to them. So, Shauna, you and I were talking about the other day, because you said too, you're like, I was using the word ideal clients, but then I noticed you kept saying dream client. And I love that you're picking up this term too, because I think a lot of people should. And I know I got the term from somebody else as well. But the more I've defined what a dream client is it's not just someone who's willing to pay you, it's someone who is also respecting you, accepting you for who you are, and being really aligned with your values, your process, and being able to go from A to Z with you and trust you within that. So, an ideal client is someone who, again, can pay you, but the dream client is someone who trusts you and allows you to just do your thing, be the expert, pay you what you're worth as well, but just be along for the ride in a way that just feels like it fits into your life and it doesn't add on to the stress, right? So it's attracting the people who are like minded to you, who are aligned in your values, your mission, and really are willing to go along with this journey with you, in the way that they can too become and step into the space where they feel wholehearted and they can fully be themselves too. So I've seen with my own clients when I pull them in and we're working together, they all go through really big transformations too, because I notice they start to go from the ideal space to the dream space too. And you can be so successful in that space. And it's just a message that I really enjoy sharing with people, that you can fully be who you are. And Shauna, this is something I love about you too, is like, you're funny and you like certain things, and it's all those things about you that like I love to connect with you on. And I know that your dream clients are going to want to connect with you on those things too, because at the end of the day, we're also human, and like human connection is so important. And I know there's all the like AI and stuff that you could chit chat with, but it's like the human connection at the end of the day that just really feels good. And if you could feel good in your business, that's where like the magic happens.
Absolutely. And it's truly, and I'm hearing a lot of this idea of like your dream clients will, and I mean, you can, people who are listening to the audio don't know this, but I've got flowers all over my shawl, and it's just, I really love, and my walls, you can't really see them very well, but the textures on my walls are all textured flower print in like cream colors. I love gardening and stuff. So I'm always going to make connections to gardening. So what I hear, what I feel when you're describing this is this idea that your dream clients will bloom with you. They will just open up
Yeah.
and connect with you, again from the roots, right? For your roots. And then two, they will nurture you as much as you're nurturing them, right? And you will begin to bloom as well. And so you're able to come full bodied and open to the sun and just do the thing that you do best in the way that you do it best alongside these people. It's this mutual relationship that you have, that it goes over and above that transaction, right? Because I believe very, very firmly that sure, transaction needs to happen. We run a business, we need to feed our families ourselves,
Yeah.
right? But over and above that, I mean, the biggest investment that people can make to you and that you return, because remember, more often than not, when it comes to finances, they're paying you, you return with a product or a service. But in this case, we're talking about a fair and liberating transaction between time and energy, right? So
Yes.
they are committing that to you, you're committing that to them, and it just feels good. The flow is there. That is the dream client. It sounds like a fantasy.
Right.
So
But
how
it's
do we attract
reality.
these? Right. How do you make this into your reality? How do you actually attract the people who will bring you alive, and the people who you can serve in such a capacity that brings them alive, that yields not only amazing results for them, but also referrals, testimonials, further connections, right? These things that actually fuel your business over and above the monetary transaction. So where would you start in this journey of developing your business in a way to attract dream clients?
Right. So even though we're talking about dream clients and all this stuff, and you might be thinking like, well, wait, Kailee, aren't you a designer? Yes, I'm a designer, but branding goes so beyond, and it goes so much deeper into the strategy and understanding the marketing, again, like Shauna does, of really reaching the people who connect with you. So I first and foremost, and whatever this looks like to you, because there's a million different ways, rather you like to sit down and journal, maybe you go out for a walk and you think about it, whatever feels right to you, I just really encourage you to sit and think about, like, when is a time, and this is like my favorite because I love to ask this to all my clients. Think of a time and a space where you have been somewhere where you just 100% feel comfortable and you feel like yourself. And when I think about this, sometimes I think of like imagining myself being at a party and I'm like dressed in the outfit that I love. I'm feeling really confident. I'm excited to be there, whatever the event may be. And all my friends and my family are there, the people that I love the most. I have maybe clients there that have now become my friends because that's happened quite often. But just imagining this space where like you just feel confident and comfortable and you can show up and also be a little bit vulnerable too, like because we're human and some days I just got goosebumps for that. But there's some days, where we're having harder times, and sometimes it's okay to show up with that too, because that is where we connect a lot as well. So imagine this space and really think about how you can then in turn bring that into your business. So as a designer, I always tell my clients, like, if you want to put your favorite color into your brand and still attract your dream clients, you can. And that was something that I actually have kind of pushed against, because in school I learned like, oh, that's forbidden. You have to think about the ideal client and audience first, and your opinion doesn't matter. But I was like, man, I love and breathe the color purple. And even though my branding is so galaxy themed and purple, like everybody's like, oh, Kaylee's the purple girl, and I walk around in like these star outfits, like oftentimes some people will be like, wow, you're really on brand, and it's like, no, I just built my brand to encapsulate who I am.
Yes. I'm just like, yes, because truly, especially when we're working in this space where entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, small business owners, once you get bigger, it's a little bit more challenging. That's a whole different conversation. But when we're talking about small to medium-sized businesses, you are your brand.
Yeah.
So to be able to pull that through is just so genuine and in and of itself attractive to other people who need your services. And actually, I just wanted to go back and reflect a little bit on the question that you asked the audience about, where is that space that you feel authentically yourself, true to you, vulnerable and at peace, and all those beautiful ways that you articulated that. And I want to actually ask you, in the comments, in any of the, this is going to be a question over on the audio podcast, reflect on that and share your stories, because stories are also how we connect. And I want to share you mine, because I think this is an interesting way to demonstrate how unique those experiences can be. Because Kailee, yours was in a party setting with people around in your best dress, right? Like that's
I'm also extroverted, so let's just
so here's
I'm an extrovert. I loved it.
Right. And this is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful, because here's the flip side. Because I'm an introvert. People never believe me. I'm an outgoing introvert. I love being by myself. So for me, as soon as listen, Kailee, you've asked me this before, and it comes back to the same spot, because I tried again. I said, I'm going to do this again. It's the same spot. I'm either this is an and or situation, in a garden on my own, on a warm day, light breeze, taking turns digging in the garden and nurturing my plants, pruning and maybe humming to myself, maybe some light music, Jason Mraz. For now, it might change to Jack Johnson or Taylor Swift, or we might go back and listen to Chilliwack if you're Canadian, But then also probably on the side, when I don't want to be messy, a canvas and paint, and the sound of a paintbrush across the canvas, and just that slow, quiet encapsulation of self within the quiet, nurturing tasks that are like that. That to me just feels like home. That feels open, and it doesn't matter what I'm wearing. Goodness gracious, I don't even care. I actually saw a meme one day that said, "You don't need to build your own privacy fence, because if you garden naked, your neighbors will do it for you." So hey, if you want to save some money and time, there's your solution. But that's where I'm at, right? I'm just like, and that, so my brand, my personality shines in that way, and then yours in this way, and both of them are amazing, and both of them attract the perfect combination of qualities that make up a dream client. And interestingly, and this is where, and I know I'm going off now, but this is where I think to myself, because I've heard it so often in my clients, when they're just deciding on who their ideal or dream clients are, they don't want to leave anybody out, right? Well, I don't want to say this, because then so-and-so won't be attracted to what I have to offer. And this is a fallacy, right? This isn't, just because you say that this is your ideal person or your dream person doesn't mean that people who don't necessarily fit the bill won't approach you.
Yes.
Also in addition to that, right? Would anybody have thought that this extroverted big purple personality would be a good fit for this introverted deep green quiet personality?
Yeah.
And yet, here we are. And so, this
Mhm.
is just a clear example of how being yourself will indeed attract the people who are your dream clients. And I'm going to argue, people who you would have otherwise omitted from that list due to
Mhm.
your biases.
Yes.
So, what I'm going to ask you to do is tell me a little bit about how stepping into, and we're going to wrap this up. Your last thoughts, okay? I want to give
Okay.
you to give me your last thoughts on stepping into your aligned self, showing up in your visuals, and in your brand and your strategy, and what is using all this, attracting your dream client. What is your biggest takeaway that you want to share with the people in this moment? Um, Go.
Yeah. So the first thing that came to mind, and it's something you kind of brought up already, is you need to keep in mind that you're not for everybody. And I think that's sometimes a
Yes.
really hard pill to swallow, but it's an okay one too. And I think it's also all right to say no to certain people too, right? Like, I am not a huge fan of working with real estate agents because my branding and style doesn't fit exactly what they need or what they want. So even though I've attracted real estate agents, I still sometimes have to say no when they apply because I'm like, yeah, my style doesn't really fit you. However, I have a graphic designer that I know that would be a great fit for you. So I think it's important to remember that, being yourself and attracting the right people also means that you're going to not work with certain people, and that's okay. So a dream client, you have to keep in mind, isn't just, again, they're not the ideal client that's going to pay. They're the
Mhm.
dream client that's going to respect the process, and you need to keep that in mind because that's what helps your work flow. And in return, your dream clients are going to be the ones that rant and rave about you. I have some clients that I worked with 3 years ago that will randomly post about me on social media or send people my way as a referral. That's what a dream client is. It's somebody that loves the process, loves you as a person, and then again we'll give you back that in return, and then you create this bond and this relationship. And I know some people kind of stray from that within business, but I've taught my clients, for those of us that are very heart-centered, it's important to have those connections, and that's how we all grow as small business owners, because we're not like against each other, right? Like, we're all in this together. So that's kind of my key takeaway, is like, you'll notice once you do start to embrace yourself that you're not going to attract everybody, but that's the point. And yeah, that's my biggest takeaway
And
for your
it's
question.
huge. And it's huge. It's a huge takeaway. So knowing that, and having received all of the immense value, and in fact, some kind of coaching from you with some of these questions, truly, where can people reach out to you if they want to dive into your world?
Yes. So I am primarily on Instagram over at eclecticdesigns.co, but you can also always hop over to my website, which is also eclecticdesigns.co. So you can find me under that name under all platforms. You can always reach out to me on Instagram in the DMs. I love to have conversations and talk through things like this. As Shauna knows, I'm a huge talker, I'm an extrovert. So you're more than welcome to come over, hop into my DMs, or just consume some of my content. Even that, I'd love to support you as well. Come say hi. But those are the primary places. And then I also have a podcast called Branded and Booked, where I have a lot of amazing guests, and Shauna will soon be one of them as well. So you can go over there and get lots and lots of really good information from all the guests I've had on. I've been doing it for about 3 years now. So we have a whole archive of conversations and tidbits. And this year we've really honed into focusing on branding and website design, and just developing your brand as a whole.
That's perfect. That's amazing. And I'm going to endorse that tenfold. I was just doing a little dance. If anybody's not
Yes.
watching the video version, I'm like, yes, the podcast. Totally hunker down in there and give her a follow, give her a rating, all that jazz. That said, we are going to wrap it up. And I hope that everybody else has a fabulous rest of the day, and join us for our next podcast because it comes out weekly. And you know that there's gold to come. So with that, we'll catch you on the flip side, I guess.
Well, Shauna, thank you so much for your time. And if you're listening, thank you too for just sharing this space with us today.
Amazing.